creatives, and welcome to my channel. As you may notice, I'm not in my normal setup. I am at a different office. By the way, if you are new here, hi, I'm Angela. I am a graphic designer and an illustrator. I make videos all about that. So we're going to be diving into Illustrator on the iPad today. And if you guys like illustration videos, if you guys like learning how to create different illustrations on the iPad and on the desktop, I do desktop videos as well. Go ahead and like this video and subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it. So today we are going to be doing line art. Now, line art may seem to be very easy, but there are some things that you need to keep in mind. Now, when it comes to line art, there's different kinds of line art. The line art I'm going to be talking about is where you have your lines and they're all the same weight and it creates an illustration or an image. I know sometimes with line art it involves typography and such like that. I will be incorporating some typography. It's all going to be fall themed. I do have some inspiration and some sketches on the side that I'm going to be referencing, but I figured since it is the fall season, we are in October, that we should do some cute little line art illustration work because I haven't really delved too much into that and I really want to. So let's just get started. I have the pen tool activated right here. You can use the pencil tool, which is right below it. You can also use the brush tool. If you double tap on the pencil tool, the brush tool is nested in there. But I typically like the pen tool. It's just my preference. If you guys don't know, I do have an entire series of pen tool basics that I have on my channel. I'll link the playlist down below for you guys. If you guys are interested in learning how to use the pen tool and everything involved with the pen tool. I do have some kind of like typical things for, you know, fall that represents fall. But when it comes to line art, the main thing I try to keep in mind is I like to have a shape that I start with. So for the one that I want to do right now, it's going to be a coffee shape. That one is in the shape of an actual like coffee cup with the steam coming up. So that's what I'm going to do first. To create those shapes, I'm going to open my layers panel and I'm just going to add some layers by pressing this plus sign over here. I'm going to begin layer 1. I'm going to double tap layer 1 and I'm going to name it Shape Guide. Let me go back to Shape Tool. I'm going to choose a circle. If you hold down the touch selector over here, it constrains your proportions so that way you get a perfectly constrained circle. I'm just going to have it sit there. I'm going to duplicate that one to bring it up here. Then I'm going to duplicate it again, and I'm just going to make the overall kind of like spacing, if you will. So I get the overall spacing here, and I'm just going to choose the point selection tool, which is right up here. I'm going to break these handles. To break a handle, I have gone over this a few times, but if you guys don't know, just hold down this touch selector over here. There is a touch selector on the screen on the iPad. I'm just breaking these handles to give myself an overall point, kind of like the idea of where the overall point is for the smoke. This is just a guide, kind of looks like a Hershey Kiss, but you get the idea. So this is just a guide, and I'm going to open my layers panel. If you don't know, you can tap the layer icon over here on the top right toolbar, and that will hide and show the layer docket for you. So I'm going to lock it. There is a lock symbol right here. It may be hard for you guys to see, but there is a lock symbol right here. I'm gonna lock that layer because it's just a shape guide. Go to layer 2. I'm gonna tap on layer 2. I'm going to use a text. So I'm gonna put font as the layer name. When it comes to fonts, I'm just gonna zoom in here for you guys. This is the spacing that I'm working with. My artboard is your standard A4 artboard. It is in portrait mode. You want to make sure that when you're choosing fonts that it has the same like look and feel that you're looking for the piece. For fonts, select the type tool. Just tap anywhere on the artboard and that famous lorem ipsum pops up. By the way, if you don't know what lorem ipsum is, it's a whole entire phrase in Latin. If I can find it, I'll pop it up on the screen. I found it very interesting. If you like look through the history of it, at least it is to me. I'm going to write for the love of coffee. It's going to be in all caps. And once you have your font, or once I have my font here, I'm going to select a different font. Now, there are lots of preloaded fonts in Adobe Illustrator. If you have a CC account, you can download more. You have like a certain amount that you can download per month or whatever. I'm gonna do this one, which is Blambot FX Pro Heavy. I like the kind of like feel of it. It's very, not necessarily handwritten, but I do like the overall look of the font. It's kind of doing what I want. So I'm just gonna duplicate this one, pull it down, double tap in, increase the size. You can increase the size by just pulling on this slider here. You could also change the kerning, and like our kerning is like the spacing in between letters. I'm gonna increase the letter spacing here. And I also want to change the O. I'm gonna go into this type icon over here on the right toolbar. And what this does is it allows you to outline your text. So all your text ends up being shapes instead of a font. And you can see that by selecting the properties panel with the font selected, and you realize, oh, hey, there's no font here anymore. No, because it's now a shape. So it just makes all your text a shape. So I'm gonna ungroup it, select the O. With the O, I wanna kind of make it into like a little heart because I think that'd be really cute. So I'm gonna choose the second selection tool over here in the left toolbar and transform this into a heart because I think that'd be really adorable. Oh, I'm gonna need another point here. Sometimes handles can hide, so you do want to zoom in pretty far. And with the iPad, you can zoom in super far. Like, it's kind of crazy how much you can zoom in. You want to make sure that you have an overall layout where everything kind of gets like encompassed into that layout, because that's going to keep your piece well balanced. By well balanced, I mean like top to bottom and side to side. So that way your piece doesn't look like lopsided or too heavy on top and not heavy on the bottom. With this, all the font is going to be at the top. Another thing to keep in mind and to note for line art pieces like this, you want some line weights to be thinner to show contrast. That's always something good to have, because when you're doing line art, the only contrast you have is the line weight and positive and negative space. If you guys haven't seen my graphic design principles series where I talk about space, contrast, and harmony, I'll have that linked as well. I have like an entire playlist. I'll link it on the screen somewhere. You want to have not only contrast, but have everything work together as one unit, and that creates balance. It can very easily become muddled, and it can very easily read all the same and get pretty boring to where nothing stands out, and you want something to stand out. All right, there we go. We made like a little heart out of the O. I'm going to also modify the L a little bit because the L is a bit too small. Now you don't want to modify it to where it's not recognizable as like the font anymore. So you gotta kind of be a little bit choosy about how you go about doing this. I can even change the E. And you see this handle up here, this one here, you can change the degree and the angle of the letters. I'm just gonna move this down here, and I'm going to modify the E ever so slightly to where it's following this line that I made here with my guide. And I really want that to come across because I want it to kind of like encompass the coffee that I'm gonna make here. Hold down the touch selector to select multiple points. I kind of want to keep this in the realm of fog, so I'm going to double tap the layer name for layer 3. For the last layer, layer 4, we're just going to do the accents. So I'm just going to put accents here. There we go. That way we keep in mind where our placement is. For the font, I'm going to lock that in place because I don't want to move it and I don't want to select it. So locking layers is actually very, very helpful, especially if you don't want to accidentally select a layer that you don't want to select. Okay, now we're on the coffee layer. I'm going to choose my pen tool. There we go. I'm going to switch my fill for my stroke. So now my stroke is just black, and I will change this a little bit later. So the layers panel, I'm going to choose that shape guide. I have to unlock it first. I'm going to choose the shape guide, go into the properties panel. I'm going to bring down the opacity down here under appearance, just so that way I can use it as a guide and not be distracted by it. And that way I can see more easily. Go back to that coffee layer. I'm going to go back to choosing black as a stroke, and then I'm going to do a very simple line. And I'm gonna start the line kind of like down here where we have this. So let's see. I want it to come up pretty far. I'm just gonna use 3 points to start off with. I am going to choose my point selection tool and select this point here, bring it up slightly. Hi guys, future me popping in here really quickly. By the way, this is a video to come. When you see this background, you'll know when I filmed this. But basically, I had a lot of technical issues this day, and what ended up happening with the line art is that last line that you saw me create, all I did was duplicate that line and drag it up slightly, and then I duplicated that line a second time, dragged it all the way up to the top, went into the bar graph icon, which is the align icon, and I flipped this shape horizontally so that way it can flip like that. What I created was the start of the steam, where I chose the second selection tool, the point selection tool, and I added points and moved point to where it would look like steam. From there, I'm going to move ahead and continue on with the line art itself. I'm so sorry. I don't know what happened to the footage. It just got lost. My camera either shut off or what have you. So many issues happening that day, but technical difficulties from my camera. So I'm sorry guys, but that is what I did. So let's move ahead. So now it's starting to look a little bit like this. And I want to do like a secondary shape here. So I think I'm just gonna duplicate this one, pull it down, distort it slightly. When you distort lines like this, it will tend to change the stroke weight. So always gotta go back and make sure that your stroke weight remains either the same or similar. I think I'm gonna do this as a 6 actually. Earlier I mentioned that you want some contrast, and the way to create contrast is to have thinner stroke weight lines with encompassing your thicker stroke weight lines, because you want the overall shape to have the same stroke weight, but you want your details to be a thinner stroke weight. So that way it gives you more of a contrast, and that way not everything looks the same. You guys may recognize that I am switching up what I say as far as the names of tools. Like for this second tool over here, I say sometimes that it's a point selection tool or a white direct selection tool. In the desktop version, it's called a white direct selection tool because in the desktop version, these icons are either black or white. So with the regular selection tool, which is this one, in desktop version, it's black. And in iPad version, they're all white. So when I say that this is the white direct selection tool, it's just a direct selection tool. It's different from a selection tool because the selection tool selects a shape and the direct selection tool or the point selection tool selects a shape by its vector points. This is what it's called, vector points. I want to make sure that there's plenty of space in between the shapes because I don't want it to look crowded. That's the one thing you don't want with line art. You don't want anything to be crowded because then it kind of just looks all muddled and it looks like it's not supposed to be there when things are too close together. And now we're going to do the coffee. For the coffee, I'm going to use the shape tool because, oh, you know what? I did that on the wrong layer. Darn it. That's okay. You just select, hold down your touch selector, and then you can go into your layers panel if you accidentally put things on the wrong layer, expand both of the layers, and then just grab and drop it down. Just drag and drop into the next layer. There we go. All right, so I'm gonna make our cup of coffee. I could just use the pen tool to do this, but I think I'm just going to use the shape tool. It's automatically defaulted to a square shape tool, but tap on it twice, you have other options. I'm gonna choose the circle or sphere tool, and I'm not gonna hold down my touch selector because I don't want a constrained perfect circle. I want it to be unconstrained because I want it to be more of an oval. Here we go. Just gonna pull it visually to what I think it should be. Open up the properties panel, you'll see that it's at the same point weight as these bottom accents here. So now that I have that, let me choose these and put them in the correct layer because I did not put them in the correct layer earlier, and now they are. Okay, so Coffee layer. Yes. All right, so I have one sphere here, one sphere shape. Choose that, duplicate it. Always duplicate things whenever possible. You always want to save yourself time, and you don't want to take up a whole bunch of time by having to do things multiple times over and over and over again when you can just duplicate the shape. Decrease this shape by constraining it by holding down my touch selector. And this is going to be the base. I'm going to connect these two shapes together by using another duplicated sphere. It's going to bring this down. Select all three of those shapes and shape build them together. If you guys have never used the shape builder in Illustrator on the iPad, it's under the Pathfinder icon, which is right here. It's the fourth icon on the right toolbar. Choose this shape builder selection there, and wherever you draw over, it all comes into one. Now, if you don't want some things to be pathfinded together, you just hold down the touch selector and draw over it, and it does like the minus, because on the desktop version it's different. You hold down Alt or Option and you draw over with your mouse. Here you have to hold down the touch selector right over here. Now this doesn't exactly look like a coffee cup, but we're going to change it, don't worry. I'm going to choose my point selection tool and modify the points here. I'm going to go to my point selection tool and tidy up all these points. There we go. Okay. So now that I'm zoomed out, always remember to zoom out. Now that I'm zooming out, I see that the coffee cup is a bit too thick. So I'm going to select the coffee cup, go back into my properties panel. Aha, see the stroke weight went a little too big. So let's bring that back down to 10. Now looking a lot better. Okay, I need the handle. So let's move this in and let's make a handle. I think for the handle, I'm just gonna do that shape tool again. Go into your combined shapes. It's called combined shapes. I know I said Pathfinder earlier. That's just the desktop version name of it, but it's called combined shapes icon. They use the same symbol. And I'm going to choose the shape builder option at the top. Hold down the touch selector, get rid of things I don't want. Double check that my stroke weight is still the same. It is not, so let's change it back to 10. Okay, so now it's starting to come together. Now that I'm zoomed out here, you guys can see how unweighted the coffee layer is. So I'm just going to use the selection tool, decrease it with constrained proportions by holding down the touch selector, and I'm going to move it. I'm going to put my guides back on. For fall, I was kind of thinking of doing like some latte art on this coffee, and that line art is going to be different. Create a new layer above the coffee layer, and this is going to be latte art. For this one, I think I'm just going to use the pen tool for this. I want my line, my stroke weight line, to be thinner, so I will showcase that in just a second. What if we just did an apple? Because apple crisp seems to be like really popular recently. I think I'm just gonna do an apple. I have a reference to some apples over here to my left. Because I was thinking, oh, what if we did a leaf? But then I'm like, would the leaf be too difficult? Maybe. So let's do an apple. Let's zoom out. Yeah, it's way too thick. So select both of those. And I'm gonna take the stroke weight down a little bit. Let's open our properties panel. Let's do 7, see what that looks like. Still a little bit thick, let's do 6. That's better. So you can kind of see, I'm gonna group these together. So that way you can see that it's a little apple. Cute little apple for fall. Now, latte art usually has a lot more accents to this. So I'm just gonna add some little ovals by using the shape tool. I'm not gonna constrain them, but I am gonna use the point selection tool to select one end, like one point. Here, let me zoom in for you. One point on one end, and I'm gonna choose this icon right here, which takes away the handles and makes it into a blunt endpoint, if you will. Select this one, I'm gonna widen this here. Kind of looks like a little bit of a leaf. Zoom out, duplicate this one, flip it on the vertical axis, so that way we have 2, and we can balance it on each side. select both of these, duplicate them, move them down. And you guys can make whatever art you want on yours. I just kind of thought this was fun. There we go. All right, so that's our latte art. It's quite cute, I think. This handle is bothering me a little bit. I think let's move some of these points. The last thing I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna add little coffee beans. I'm just gonna do the overall shape, which looks like a bean, and I'm gonna do like a little accent line in the middle. I may play around with some color. For the bean, I'm gonna add a new layer. This layer is gonna be coffee beans. So for coffee beans, I kind of want to do an accent like here, 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 and here, just to kind of like tie everything together. I think it'd be really, really cute. I'm going to choose that shape tool again, and I'm just going to do an unconstrained oval. You notice a theme going on here, unconstrained ovals. Okay, let's check our weight. It's at 9. Let's do 8, just so it gives it a little bit of a difference. Choose my point selection tool here. I'm gonna give it more of a accented bean shape. Kinda like so. That kinda looks like a bean. Now, of course, the bean is way too big, so we're gonna squish it down. Yeah, like that. And then I'm gonna do one line, one accent line with the pen tool. Make that stroke weight 5, I think. Let's zoom out and see. Yeah, that looks really cute. Okay, group these two together by selecting both of them across the artboard. Next to the lock icon in the quick selection menu, there is a group icon. You just select that and it groups it. I'm going to duplicate this one, bring it over here. I'm going to line them up from their bases, as you can see with the guides here. You may not be able to see it, but with the pink guides, there is an alignment here. Go to the align tool, flip it, that way it looks correct. And now that I have these on both sides, the coffee does look visually out of place. So I'm gonna unlock our coffee layer and our latte art layer, select all of that, and I'm just gonna move it over slightly so it visually looks like it's in the space that it's supposed to be in. I'm going to make a few more coffee beans. I'm just gonna do some like little accent bubbles, if you will. This provides more contrast, solid and negative space. If you combine those, it creates contrast. Now I'm gonna do the same thing up at the top, but I think I wanna do like little hearts because it's for the love of. So I'm gonna duplicate this one. I'm gonna bring it up here. I'm gonna do like little heart. There we go, there's one. Select it, duplicate it, and put it on the other side. There we go. Oh, right, now let's go into our layers panel. Let's hide our shape guide underneath. That's looking quite cute. Oh gosh, that's looking so good. Okay, let's unlock all the layers. And I'm gonna select everything up here. I'm gonna move it down slightly because it's a bit too tall. Over here, where's my text layer, my font layer? Here we go. Make sure I'm on that layer. And we're gonna choose that same font. Just gonna type the word of. Bring that over here. So what do you guys think? I think this came out very adorable. All things fall for the festive season. As far as like colors go, if you guys want to do, instead of it just being black and white, if you guys want to do color, I do highly suggest playing around with color. You can definitely go into the color books here, and there's plenty of colors for you guys to choose from here. And every color that you choose in here goes straight to your swatches panel. You can very easily switch this up and change up all the colors and such like that. I hope you guys like learning how to do some line art. I'm gonna have a lot more pieces coming out on my shop. If you guys don't know, I do have a shop. It's always linked in the description down below. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and leave me a comment down below of anything that I didn't cover, any questions you guys have. I usually always answer them, and I will see you all in my next video. See you soon, creatives.